A lot going on with medical properties trust in the market as a whole this week. So obviously the market took a giant deuce all over everybody's portfolio. Medical properties trust was not unscathed, of course. We had a great run up last week and just kind of gave it all back as we usually do. It's called the MPW special. Now, after big tech has sort of had a giant sell off, it looks like some money is flowing back into yielders, namely REITs. So Vici is up big, for example. Now, MPW not up maybe as much as something like Vici, but up nonetheless. Tobacco has done pretty well the last couple days. BTI, especially in my portfolio, has been a standout. It's sort of propping the whole thing up at the moment, as my recent Amazon position has decided not to do too well. So we're kind of in this area where a lot has been going on with the bankruptcy with the Steward Chapter 11. I listened to one of the conference calls of one of the court hearings that was going on. And of course, everybody is trying to look after their own interests. And it seems like the judge is trying to get at why delays on this any further would actually really make any big difference as far as patient outcomes, because if Steward just kind of runs out of money, the hospital's going to close and it's going to be really sloppy, versus if they just get the ball rolling and get it underway now, move people safely, get an emergency plan together. But I digress. Everybody's trying to posture for their own self-interest, whether it be the state officials and the politicians for political purposes, or the other lenders to try to maybe reduce MPW's cut of the pie from this divvying of the assets that's going to take place. At the end of the day, this is an asset play, okay? And there's fluctuations, of course, in the tangible book value, because they may buy assets, there may be depreciation, cash may go up, or debt may increase or decrease. And so you'll see at its height in the last few years, it was close to $15 in tangible book value. We're down more towards $11 and change. And I expect at the next earnings that this data is going to change, because there have been a bunch of liquidity transactions which have changed how much cash they have, how much debt they have, etc. So that's going to be pretty interesting, and that's projected to happen sometime in mid-August. The main purpose of the liquidity transactions they've been doing is to manage long-term debt, of which they have almost $10 billion still. Now, granted, it's down a little bit from its highs, but this is what they needed to raise the $2 billion in liquidity this year to get under control. They have actually greatly exceeded that target. Depending on what specifically they pay down with it and stuff, we could definitely see this number there could be a big change in this number basically on the next quarterly. Now, also, what we hope to hear about in the next earnings release is what their take is on everything that's been going on with Steward. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of pages of documents to possibly sift through with that. And of course, every time there's a hearing or whatever, it's possibly a couple hours or more maybe of audio to try to listen to. It's a lot to keep up with. The market reacts to every little bit of it. And it's hard as a retail shareholder with a 9-to-5 or like a life or hobbies to keep up with all of that. We do try to keep up with it as best we can as a group in my Discord, which is, of course, linked in the description. And we're putting together a round table to try to discuss some of the finer points of this stock live on the Cashflow Kings Live YouTube channel, also linked in the description. So make sure you're in those places if you care a lot about this stock, because it's one of the ones we cover the most. It's one of my largest positions. It is actually currently the largest position in my value account. So definitely it's one I care about a lot and follow a lot as a result. The analyst outlook on this name is mostly driven by sentiment, to be perfectly honest. I have yet to see an analyst target from any institution actually provide anything of value. When the share price dropped to $3 back in January, downgrades left and right. When it bounced back up, upgrades. So it seems to just chase where the sentiment and the price is. And I don't know that they're really doing any true analysis. The short sellers, of course, will basically say that every asset on their books is a zero and worthless. And some of the bulls will say everything is worth way more than what it is on the balance sheet. And the truth, more than likely, falls somewhere between those two extremes, but to which direction it leans, that's what has yet to be determined precisely. Now, if you're invested in the stock, obviously you think it leans more towards the book value probably being somewhat close to where the assets are actually worth. And your hope is maybe assets could be worth maybe a bit more because of depreciation, versus others who say that the actual market value of the assets is actually less because MPW overpaid. That's sort of where a lot of the short thesis comes from, as well as the debt cliff that they are facing, because as I mentioned, they have almost $10 billion in long-term debt. Well, it's probably less now because of the liquidity, which was raised to pay it down. But a lot of the maturities on that are coming over the next couple, 2-3 years. So it's one of those things where they have to come up with a lot of cash all of a sudden. If they can't do that, then there's a problem. Now, so far, they've hit their liquidity targets, so we're probably not facing that giant cliff at this exact point in time, but they do have their biggest tenant in Chapter 11 right now. So definitely we want that situation resolved as soon as possible. Other operators in producing FFO for the business. And we, of course, want them to be able to continue to operate as a REIT, hopefully pay out that dividend, because that's what attracts a lot of the investors into this name. And maybe eventually squeeze out the shorts. If you are in a medical properties trust, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel and also like this video for the algorithm. Make sure you join the Discord link in the description if you want to discuss the stock at length, because there are multiple people invested heavily in the stock, some with positions that far dwarf my own. Make sure also that you follow me on Twitter at Mr. Macho Mog, or X. You can choose your own adventure on which way you refer to that platform now, but you got to follow me there. It's very important that you do that. Also, be sure that you consider becoming a channel member if you want to support the channel directly, but just liking the video, subscribing, and watching, that's enough for me. Take it easy, everyone.